What's up, guys? We've passed the 1 year mark since the Capital One Venture X card stormed on the scene and made everyone fall in love with Capital One. Now, if that sounds a bit extreme, then let's all agree that the Venture X made everyone tolerate Capital One, okay? Well, this card has received a ton of attention here on YouTube, but I haven't seen too many videos answering the question that is asked when that big annual fee hits. Well, my $395 annual fee has posted on my Venture X card, and I have a fairly difficult decision to make on whether I keep the card and pay the fee, I cancel the card and move on, or maybe I product change to a different but no annual fee Capital One card. Now, I don't want to do a full review on this card because, well, there are so many of those on YouTube already, and I'm sure you've heard a half dozen creators go through the numbers and explain how it always makes sense to keep the card. Today, I want to sort through this card based on my year experience and my use case. Maybe there'll be something in this breakdown you can relate to, or maybe you haven't thought of. But before that, if you are new here, I talk about credit cards, points, miles, cash back, and travel. If you want to keep up with those topics, consider subscribing and being part of our online community. As always, if you get any value from this video, slap that like button for me and the YouTube algorithm. Now, let's get started. Okay, obviously most of these travel cards are always going to be worth it in the first year because of the big sign-up bonuses. Well, it turns out I never got that big bonus. That is right. I was in the position where my two oldest credit cards were Capital One cards, the Quicksilver and the Venture One. So at the time, I wasn't keen on applying straight up for the Venture X. But I also had two cards that I did not use. So this is what I decided. It's a great card and it's tough to lose value on it. So I thought I would just product change from a card that I knew I would never really use to the Venture X and give it a ride for a year. I called Capital One and switched the Quicksilver card with the $30,000 credit limit to a brand new crispy Venture X card, and I paid the $395 fee. I wasn't super sure how much I'd use the Venture X, but I thought it would have to be more than never. And I just checked my statements, and in the last year, I put around $6,000 spend on the Venture X. That's actually more than I thought, but it turns out it is a pretty great everything else card because it earns double miles and it includes transfer partners. More on those later. Most of us know the benefits of this card, and we also know it comes with a $300 travel credit through the Capital One travel portal. So how did I use that? Well, I booked a hotel in Cincinnati for a Bengals night game, and then a few weeks later, I decided to sell my tickets to that game, and I canceled that reservation. I had already been rebated the $300, so when the hotel refunded my room price, I basically had liquidated the $300 travel credit. Now listen, I'm not recommending everyone do that with their travel credit, but I still wanted to report that that worked. So what about the other $95 I paid? Did I get positive value from it? We all made a big deal about the Priority Pass and the lounge access. I was really excited to visit the Priority Pass restaurants, but Capital One actually took that portion of the benefits away before I was able to take advantage of it. What about the Capital One Venture Lounge in DFW in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas? Well, I was able to visit that lounge, and I really can't say enough good things about it. I'm not sure what type of value I would put on that lounge per visit, but I think for myself and my little boy, we likely ate at least $40 worth of food and drinks when we compare that to airport prices. I personally like connecting in Dallas, DFW, so I really don't need to go out of my way to visit that lounge. The next two lounges are scheduled to be in Washington, Dulles, and Denver. I am a huge fan of IAD Washington Dulles, so that is definitely a bright spot there. But I do have to mention there are so many really great airport lounges already there. To sum it up, I think there is true value here for this lounge access. Not to mention, I made my wife and my stepson authorized users, so they both have a Priority Pass and some lounge access for no extra cost. At the time I got the card, it was supposed to be my overseas card. With Visa worldwide acceptance and no foreign transaction fees, it actually came in handy in Ireland. So far, so good. What are some things I really don't like about the card? And I'm going to be super honest here. I'm in the points and miles game so I can travel for free or almost free. So I don't like prepaying for travel with things like a travel credit. This fee basically forces me to pay $395 cash every year when my goal was closer to $0. Now, zero is fairly lofty and aspirational, I know, and for the amount of traveling I do, I really should not mind paying the $395 for $300 in travel credits and eventually the 10,000 Capital One miles. But I don't think this setup is ideal for me. What about the travel portal itself? I'll be 100% honest. For me, I would book $300 worth of flights to get the credit and then I would be done with it. I'm just not a travel portal fan in any way, but the earnings for using the portal could make it appealing for some people. So this really leaves me with three things that would make me want to keep this card around. The transfer partners. I've said a few times before that I think the Capital One transfer partners are very, very strong. Avianca Life Miles, Air France Flying Blue, Virgin Atlantic, and Turkish Miles and Smiles are some very heavy hitters in this game. And to have access to the Capital One ecosystem and those partners, for me, is very valuable. Capital One has also shown that they will include some very good transfer bonuses from time to time. They don't have the best hotel partners in my opinion, but that's just not the most important thing to me right now. Are the Capital One miles partners on par with American Express or Chase? Not exactly, but they aren't all that far off if you like to actually play the points and miles game. The next thing that makes this card appealing to keep are the earnings. 2 times everything else on a Visa with no foreign transaction fees is a valuable tool if you plan on running around the whole world. If you can make use of the portals, then yes, I do think 10x on hotels and rental cars and 5x on flights is pretty generous. And another thing that makes this card stand out for me is the primary rental car insurance. I personally don't rent cars very often, but the fact that this benefit really takes the worry out of the equation when I do need to grab a car makes it fairly valuable for me. The only other card I have with this benefit is the Chase Inc. Preferred, and that is technically when renting cars for business purposes. And weighing all these factors and considering the fact that I really don't need the Capital One Venture X, I basically have 2 choices. I can't cancel the card because it is technically attached to one of my oldest accounts. So I can pay the fee and keep the card as basically a tertiary ecosystem behind American Express and Chase. Doing this gives me access to a couple unique transfer partners like Turkish Miles and Smiles, but it also gives me access to more transfer bonus deals. Or I could try to product change to maybe the most underrated card in the game, the Capital One Saver One. It's a no annual fee card. I still maintain a Venture One card, so I would still have access to the partners, and I could use the points earned on the Saver One to transfer to the Venture One for miles. Neither of those are bad options if you ask me, but there's one more thing for me, may not be available for everyone and might not be around forever, but Capital One has a fairly generous referral program, and I'll explain. As hot as the Capital One Venture X is right now, and the fact that I have a YouTube channel means I can easily max out the 100,000 Capital One miles from referrals. The referral program is 25,000 Capital One miles per referral, so you only need 4 to max that out. So if I completely ignore everything I really like about the VX, I'm basically paying $395 to earn 100,000 Capital One miles if I never even use the card. Obviously, using the card even sparingly will negate that annual fee. So after walking down this long and somewhat windy road, I have decided that there are plenty of reasons to keep this Capital One Venture X card open for another year. I've had a really good run with Capital One both as a bank and as an issuer, and they still seem to me to be on an upward trajectory. The Capital One Venture X is still a card I would recommend for almost anyone that wants to travel, from the 2-trip-a-year couple to a weekend road warrior and just about everything in between. If you want more information on the Capital One Venture X or basically any card out there, check out my new super organized card link site in the description below. If you use my link, the channel will benefit and you will gain my genuine appreciation. Also in the description below, you'll see a link to Rakuten. Rakuten is a cashback shopping portal that is super easy to use, and it's actually my retail shopping portal of choice. If you use the link in the description, you can get $30 cash back on your very first purchase of $30 or more. Do it, it's free money. Guys, this is it for me. Obviously, there are a dozen more facts and tidbits with the Capital One Venture X card, but these were my main points to review, and I hope you got something out of my thought process. If you stayed all the way to the end, I appreciate you, and I thank every single one of you.